Masters of the Universe!
Hey, let's go back to the 80s. So, we first saw He-Man way back in 1981. Given to us by Mattel Toys, it went on to be extremely popular back in the 80s through a series of toys, comic books, and animated shows. It even spawned 2 full-length feature animated films. Now, in 1987, Hollywood decided to give us a live-action He-Man and the Masters of the Universe starring Dolph Lundgren as He-Man and Frank Langella as Skeletor. 2 really good actors that I like, but if you haven't seen this movie, well, you are not missing much. It's pretty brutal. And if you have seen it, well, you know exactly what I mean. Now, as the 80s ended, it was kind of the end of the He-Man. Now, there were other attempts to bring the series back in the animated form with various levels of success. However, this past weekend, Hollywood, once again mining the 80s as they are often wont to do, gave us the release of the new live-action He-Man and the Masters of the Universe film. So, what do we have here? Is this an example of 80s nostalgia done right? A true callback to the original, reliving all of its glorious 80s cheese? Or is it kind of like that 87 film, Best Forgotten? Well, before we answer that, let's talk a little bit about the plot for the film Masters of the Universe.
Talk, girl, let's talk.
So, in Masters of the Universe, a young Prince Adam is forced to flee Eternia during a devastating attack by the evil Skeletor, leaving behind his home and the destiny that he does not yet understand. Years later, Adam is drawn back into the conflict when he learns that Skeletor is once again seeking ultimate power through the Sword of Power and threatening to plunge Eternia into eternal darkness. Armed with said legendary power sword and transformed into the mighty He-Man, Adam joins forces with Teela, Man-at-Arms, and other allies to stop Skeletor's growing army. So, what works in this film? Well, one of the film's best performances is Idris Elba. He once again demonstrates his remarkable ability to elevate almost anything he's in. Whether delivering dramatic speeches or reacting to the increasingly absurd events unfolding around him, Elba brings charisma and authority to every scene. But from a performance standpoint, the real standout, however, is Jared Leto as Skeletor. Love him or hate him, Leto absolutely throws himself into the role, delivering a performance that is easily the most entertaining thing in the entire movie. He fully embraces Skeletor's theatrical nature, chewing the scenery with such enthusiasm that you almost want the film to stop cutting away from him. Every scene featuring Skeletor is fantastic, whether he's delivering grandiose villain speeches, trading insults with the heroes, or simply plotting in one of Eternia's many suspiciously well-lit evil lairs. Leto carries the movie on his bony blue shoulders, whether he's making a joke or being deadly serious, and whenever he's off screen, the film noticeably loses energy. And in a film filled with larger-than-life characters, he's the one who truly feels larger than life. Now, the film heavily leans into comedy, and some people have argued that the jokes are a little too much, but I found most of them genuinely entertaining. Not every gag lands, but enough of them do to keep the movie fun. And frankly, a film about a man named He-Man fighting a blue-faced skull wizard shouldn't be afraid to embrace a little silliness.
We are laughing.
What doesn't work, however, is some of the special effects are pretty impressive, while others look like they escaped from a streaming series that ran out of budget halfway through production. The runtime is also longer than necessary, with several scenes that feel stretched out well beyond their welcome. The bigger problem, however, is the film's inconsistent tone. One moment, it's attempting a sincere fantasy epic about destiny, courage, and saving Eternia, and the next it's tossing out jokes and winking at the audience as if it's slightly embarrassed by its own premise. I enjoyed most of the humor, like I said, but there are times when the movie seems trapped between wanting to be Lord of the Rings and wanting to be a parody of the Masters of the Universe itself. The tonal whiplash can be distracting, and it prevents the film from ever fully committing to either approach. Now, as for Nicholas Gallantine's performance as He-Man, it's unfortunately a bit uneven. At times, he captures the hero's confidence and larger-than-life presence, but in other moments he seems strangely uncomfortable carrying the weight of the film. It's not a bad performance, but it's one that never quite transforms him into the unforgettable hero the movie needs. The problem is even more noticeable because he spends much of the film sharing screen with Jared Leto, who is having the time of his life and stealing nearly every scene he appears in. So overall, Masters of the Universe is a decent and entertaining fantasy adventure with standout performances from Idris Elba and especially Jared Leto. Skeletor ends up being the film's secret weapon and the main reason to stick around through its lengthy runtime. However, its inconsistent tone, uneven visual effects, bloated runtime, and less than commanding lead performance prevent it from becoming anything truly memorable. It's perfectly enjoyable. It's perfectly fine way to spend a few hours, but there's nothing particularly special about it. And despite all the effort that went into bringing Eternia to life, it looks like audiences may have to decide that the true power of Grayskull was staying at home instead. It's not as bad as the 87 version, but it's not the big win that they thought it was going to be, and early results are looking like it's going to be a bit of a flop.
All right, better luck next time.
Well, that's all I have for you this week. Tune in next week where I give you my thoughts and my feelings on whatever I've seen. In the meantime, click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment or a question, share this video with friends and enemies alike, and as always, thank you for giving me your valuable time, and I'll see you next week. Take care.